Network Entertainment.
And welcome to my podcast, the RJ Ledesma Podcast. In my podcast, I like to speak to entrepreneurs and business owners to learn more about how they think about doing business, what are their success secrets, and can we replicate those success secrets in our own businesses. And oftentimes, as entrepreneurs, we're often always on the go, on the go, on the go. Sometimes they say that the mantra of the entrepreneur is ready, fire, aim, because you're always trying to get business, go do the hustle. But sometimes, you don't get to fix up the organizational plumbing, so to speak, no? And that's why today I want to talk to somebody who can help me more in the foundational aspects of my own business or how I think about being an entrepreneur. And that is Aya Del Rosario Gust. She is the implementer of what we call the Entrepreneurial Operating System. Is that right?
Right, Entrepreneurial Operating System or EOS, yes.
And she's also the founder of the company which implements teaching EOS here in the Philippines called Satori Executive Training. Just to show you, this is the book that she has, which basically outlines the entrepreneurship or entrepreneurial operating system called Traction. Yeah, and there you see the book over there. You see the book here as well. It's called Traction. Really great book by Gino Wickman EC, the founder of the EOS
Yes,
system.
he is the founder of EOS.
And he's in EOS myself. And you tell us the secret origin of Gino in just a bit, right?
Of course.
At the same time, because she saw me before we started, we were doing a bit of a briefing, and she saw me taking down my own notes. She gave me my own EOS notebook. Thank you so much. I'll be
You're
using
very
this a lot for profusely as I do this. So again, thanks so much for joining us over here.
Thank you for having me.
Very excited to have you. And a couple of years ago, I actually encountered you. You gave me the book. I leafed through it. I found it very, very interesting. And I said it's about time for me to learn from the fountainhead, so I can get all the knowledge coming out over here. But in a nutshell, for the entrepreneurs listening to the show, what is the sort of like elevator pitch? What is EOS all about?
EOS, or the Entrepreneurial Operating System, is a complete set of simple concepts and very practical tools that help entrepreneurs get what they want from their business. So what we do as implementers is we help these entrepreneurs and their leadership teams gain three things. We call it vision, traction, and healthy. So vision from the standpoint of everyone in the leadership team being 100% on the same page with where their business is going and what's the plan to get there, right? If you want to get what you want, you have to be clear about what you want. Traction from the standpoint of being able to execute against that simple and clear vision with focus, discipline, and accountability. And healthy from the standpoint of becoming a healthy, cohesive leadership teams, because many times as the companies, the businesses grow, the team tends to be more dysfunctional and less cohesive. So when we get to there using EOS, we believe that where the leadership team goes, so does the rest of the organization, and they eventually get to a point where the entire organization is on the same page with the vision and the plan to get there. Everywhere you look, everyone is executing against that vision with focus, discipline, and accountability, and just the entire company is healthier. So that's what we do. That's EOS.
And if you were, for example, to explain it to, I guess, very old style traditional business people who've been entrepreneurs for a long time, who haven't had systems in place, how do we sort of simplify or translate it to these? When my dad was running the business or these other people, how will this help me? Matagal na ako sa negosyo. Anong tuturo mo pa sa akin?
Well, actually, that's the thing, right? We don't teach you the business. We teach you the tools to run the business. The idea is this. When you're running the business, you have your own set of tools, set of beliefs, right? Set of processes. As you bring in more people, they also have their own ways of doing things, their own processes. So as you bring in more people into the business, especially as the business grows and you bring in more experienced leadership teams, they come with their own systems. So if you don't agree on a system, your one business starts to be ran in multiple different ways. So now you're creating confusion and people cannot execute what they don't understand. So what EOS is really a system that uses tools that have been around for 100 years that we teach you. So parang, this is your hammer. This is what you do with the hammer. And everybody agrees, okay, this is now how we're going to hammer stuff, right? So then as you grow the business, you have one set of tools for prioritizing, one set of tools for seeing whether you're on track or off track with your targets. So you run your one business with one complete set of tools.
I
Does
see.
that make sense?
Yeah, so it's not, you're not getting rid of previous systems, you're just putting things into the right place.
Some systems become very redundant, right? So you realize, oh, okay, this is how we're prioritizing, right? You have the RJ way of prioritizing, you have the Aya way of prioritizing in many different ways. And we're saying, okay, if you feel like none of this is the way, here's the EOS way of prioritizing. It's very simple. It's been proven for many years by thousands of businesses. Diba?
Thousands of businesses. So, I mean, for many people that might be hearing it for the first time here in the Philippines, the use of an EOS. But I know that there are some Filipino companies that have actually taken it on, like my previous guest, Mahesh Mirpuri.
Yeah.
His company's done it. The Sunny's people have done it.
Yeah.
What are the other companies locally that have actually started doing EOS?
Well, some of my favorite teams are like, we love working with Straightforward, has done it, very young team. What are the more familiar ones? There's Groups of Resorts, Blue Water Resorts runs on EOS. Can't think of a lot at the moment, but a lot of teams have been using it. And I'm just talking about the teams that I work with. A lot of teams also run EOS on their own. They self-implement using the book.
I see. And then in terms of what you bring in methodology-wise, is it sort of like, is it an app? I mean, that's what people might think initially. EOS, this sounds like an app to me. Or is it a series of lectures? Can you help me better understand how does EOS work?
Yeah, so the tools of EOS are really thinking tools. There are apps, but the apps that you use, they're not really necessary. They help you run EOS in your business, but these are just really mostly thinking tools or way of working tools. Like we have, when we talk about the level 10 meeting, this is a tool, a structure for running your meeting. So the meeting is less of a reporting meeting and more of a problem solving meeting. Okay. So you're using human energy where it's more meaningful to use it rather than just share reports, right? So those are, when we say tools, it's really more structure, thinking tools for running a business.
Got it. And before we actually go into this one, and maybe we'll provide some practical tools for for the aspiring entrepreneur with a business that's growing, and we can share with them some of the tools that they can start using, and hopefully they call EOS and see how much more they can improve their business. Tell me a bit more about Gino Wickman, and to better appreciate why he understands entrepreneurs so well. Who was he, and what is the pain point he was trying to initially solve when he put up EOS?
Yeah, great question. He's like you and me. So Gino is a lifelong entrepreneur. He started his first business, I think he was 21. At about 24 years old, he was asked to run the family business, which
Same
at that time, we needed a turnaround. So he turned the business around, took him about 4 years, ran it for another 3 years, and then he sold the business. And then spent another 3 years to transition that business to the new leadership team. During that same time, Gino also became one of the founding members of the Detroit chapter of the Entrepreneurs Organization, where Mahesh and I are both members. And that was where he found, working with the other members of that chapter, that he had a real knack for the art and science of running a great business. So when he sold his business, he put all of his time and energy into putting together what we now know as EOS. He was essentially very curious about what makes some of the entrepreneurial businesses really, they get what they want, right? They're growing. And these are the minority of the businesses, entrepreneurial businesses that he knew. Majority were frustrated. They were very busy. The teams are getting dysfunctional. So like, what's that secret thing that this 5% has? And then in all of his research and interviews and working with other entrepreneurs, he found that there are really 6 things that these great entrepreneurial teams are doing. They're very strong at these 6 things. We call them the 6 key components. And so he worked to put together tools to help entrepreneurs strengthen those 6 key components. And those are, the first one is vision. Every business has a vision for their business, right? So strength in the vision component just means that vision is it's simple and it's clear, not just to the owner, but to everyone in the company, beginning with the leadership team. People is a second component. We can't execute a great vision without great people. the aha here is every business has their own definition of great. So a great employee for you might not be a great employee for me, even if you have a similar set of values, right? So the job of the leadership team there is to first be very, very clear on their own definition of great, and then make sure that everyone in the company meets that definition of great. And as they grow the company, they're getting people that meet that definition of great versus a generic definition of great, right? It happens a lot. I've seen it happen a lot where somebody says, hey, you know what? I know this great person. She's worked for me. You might want to hire her. But they might have different set of
Greatness.
principles, right? For saying that's great. So we don't subscribe to a generic one. Data is the third component. 100% strong in the data component just means that you can run your business on a handful of numbers that gives you an absolute pulse on your business, right? So like when you're when you're in your business, you're looking at this handful of numbers. You should get a similar feeling to driving a car, right? I don't think you'll ever drive a car that doesn't have a dashboard. A dashboard only has a few numbers, right? And you don't look at it all the time. But when you look, you know what you need to do. I need to go and gas my car up. Oh, I need to speed up because I'm never going to make it if I drive this slow. So data, when it's strong in the business, you look at it and you get a feeling of whether, your business is okay, it's healthy, or you need to do something else. When those first three key components are strong, your vision is strong, your people is strong, data component is strong, the business becomes transparent. The things that don't align with where you want the business to be, with the kind of people that you need, with where the business is heading, they bubble to the top. And it sets you up to strengthen the fourth key component of the business, which we call the issues component, because every business has issues, right? So strengthen the issues component means that you know how to set up your issue, you know how to set it up and knock them down for the long-term greater good. Because if we're being honest, right, as entrepreneurs, our best days and best weeks are when we're able to solve exciting issues. I think what frustrates us is the same issue coming back over and over, right?
Exactly.
So strength in the issues component means we know how to set it up so it goes away for the long term. So if there are no interesting issues, we create them. Like, how do we enter a new market? Those are exciting issues versus, the copier is not working again. Right? So the fifth key component is a process component. Process is that component that allows the business to run in the right and best way all the time, without the owners or their leadership teams making sure that that's happening, right? So that creates consistency in the business. And if we're able to do that really well, we're able to strengthen the process component. We're really able to leverage human energy versus, people thinking about, how to request for payment or how to hire people. Those are things that are core to the business that should be done in the same way by everyone. And then the sixth key component is the traction component. And that is about being able to execute with focus, discipline, and accountability. So those six key components, when Gino put them together, he realized, you know what? If businesses strengthen the six key components, they're going to get what they want from the business, because the opposite is just true. When one of those key components are weak, we just don't get what we want from the business. So EOS is all about concepts and tools to help teams strengthen each of those key components. We aim for 100. We never get there, right? So the goal is 80% strong or better in each of the six key components.
I see.
And so my role as an implementer, and again, EOS can be implemented by the teams on their own. Somebody just needs to play the role of an implementer. As a professional implementer, that's all I do, right? Is I help leadership teams implement EOS. So when we help leadership teams run EOS, on average, if they're about, between 10 to 250 people, in about 2 years, they would have I would have taught them everything they needed to know. And they're most of the time ready for graduation at that point, which means they can run their system on this new way now.
I see. Well, when you say, I appreciate being an entrepreneur myself. And like, as you talk to me, I understand. And of course, I want to jump on board and do this one. But when it's called Entrepreneurial Operating System, does that mean that other companies that don't have because I always think that entrepreneurs are with an entrepreneurial mindset of
Yes,
putting the
correct.
company, right?
Yeah.
And not all companies might think, oh, I'm not really an entrepreneur, so I don't need an EOS system in my company. Is that, I mean, how do we sort of understand EOS if they don't feel like that they're a business that is entrepreneurial?
Right. It's a great point, right? Entrepreneurial means that you're um, you're you're looking at growing your business. You care about your people. You are more afraid of the status quo than of change. Like entrepreneurs, we're always changing. We're always adapting. Versus the bureaucratic corporations that have many different levels, are accountable for people outside of the owner and the leadership team. So it makes the decision process very long. EOS may not be the right system for them. There might be some tools that would help them, but EOS was really meant for entrepreneurial teams in the same way that EOS is not for startups, right? In EOS, we live in a 90-day world. And when you're a startup and you don't have, David Asanza would say, market to product fit, right? If you don't have that fit, if you're not even getting, you haven't tested your business model and you're not showing profitability, EOS is not the right business for you. Get to that, figure out that strategy first, product market fit. When you want to start to stabilize and scale, then EOS can help you.
So the EOS is perfect for the point that you want to stabilize and scale a business.
Correct. Yeah.
And just for people to understand stabilize and scale, this is a point that the business, does it matter of how long the business has been running, or rather how consistent the business has been generating, let's say, profit? How do we understand stabilize and it's time to scale?
You have proven that you can be profitable already, right? You're ready to bring it to the next level. So you're not figuring out, what will our customers pay for, that kind of thing. The pulse has to be much faster at that point, right? When you're a startup, you're throwing stuff on the wall and seeing what fits. You're using a lot of data there now. But EOS, we live in a 90-day world, right? We set priorities every 90 days, a plan every 90 days, we execute them. So for a startup, that will be very slow. In fact, during the pandemic, the leadership teams that I worked with who were running on EOS, we pulsed faster than 90 days. Right? We were doing this planning every month because of the situation. And now most of us are back to the 90-day pulse. But as a startup, that's too long.
Why 90 days? I'm just curious.
90 days just seems to be like the natural rhythm of like a cycle where it's long enough that you can actually execute a plan, but short enough that you can still remain focused.
I see.
So, yeah.
And how long does it take to, I guess, implement the EOS system inside a company?
So to fully implement EOS means that it's rolled out. Like all the 5 foundational tools have been taught and are being used by every employee down to the whatever the basic layer is of that organization. So depending on how big the company is, right? Typically for teams that are as big as about 250 people, it will take about 1.5 to 2 years. That said, I've worked with teams that are over 5,000 people.
Wow.
And so the implementation is a lot longer because EOS tools are rolled out one tool at a time, one layer at a time, beginning with the leadership team.
I see. And you actually talk about there's an EOS process. How does the EOS process work? I was looking through the program.
Yeah, sure. There's a proven process for implementing EOS. It's available in our website. But basically, there's a setup phase and an execution phase. So in the setup phase, you set up foundational tools with your executive team or with your leadership team, right? The first day, so all of these, it's a phased learning approach. So you meet together as a leadership team away from your business. For the setup phase, you're meeting once every 30 days, 30 to 45 days, right? And you're setting up tools. So for example, in Focus Day, you're setting up your accountability chart, which is a tool that looks like an organizational chart, but is much more practical and useful because an organizational chart, really shows you who reports to who. An accountability chart clarifies who's accountable for what, which is the root cause of many issues in a lot of businesses is it's not clear who's accountable for what. So you're setting up these tools, accountability chart, rocks, which are your priorities. You're learning a new way of meeting. So the meeting pulse, you're setting up your scorecard, and then you're answering 8 questions that give you an absolute clarity on where the business is going and what's the plan to get there.
So parang what I'm hearing is like, you're setting up the rules of engagement.
Correct. Yeah. Of how you run the business. Yes.
Hi, I'm Joelle. I talk for a living and I'm an overthinker. Life keeps going and the questions keep coming. But I hope you find comfort in the fact na hindi ka mag-isa. Ang dami nating overthinker, no? Sa ups and downs, twists and turns ng buhay, paano kung ituloy lang natin ang paghanap ng kasagutan? Ready? Tara! This is Joelle's Podcast. Paano kung? Powered by the Pod Network.
Because to my mind, like I put up a business together with my wife, and sometimes it tends to a lot of friction because there's, why don't you do this? Why don't you do this one? Who's doing this one? And also for a family business, I guess this is ideal for that type of setting up a rules of engagement type thing.
Yes. It's funny that you said that the vision part. So there's 3 days to that setup phase, right? The last 2 days is focused around, we call it the 8 questions, answering 8 questions to get absolute clarity on where you want to go with this business and what's the plan to get there. And there's no magic to that process. There's no magic to the 8 questions. The magic is really in the alignment, right? So like I've worked before with a brother and a sister tandem, and when they were answering the question, what is a 3-year picture? Very simple question.
Very different.
Very different. Their answer was the same, very similar in terms of the numbers, right? The revenue numbers and the EBITDA numbers. But to describe how that looks like one of the siblings was talking about, an expansion in terms of their physical plants, right? And the other sibling who's in charge of the finance is just talking about technology and just a lean production. And it's just very different. And they didn't realize that they were looking at the approach to that number very differently.
How to get there was different.
Very different, right? And it's an organization that is focused on expansion, that is led by one sibling, is going to have a very different set of plans and set of activities than the other half of the organization that is administering and managing the resources, right?
I see. Very, very interesting. Having said all that one, and I want to step back a bit more also to better understand, what are the sort of like the biggest pain points for organizations when they start realizing that they need, even if it wasn't EOS, let's just say, but where you think EOS could help the most, that it should come in? Because like for me, there's any entrepreneur, there's a lot of problems over there, but when do you think it's most important that they bring in a system like this?
I'll talk about my own experience.
Okay,
Is that okay?
please.
I'm a first generation entrepreneur. So my original experience was in corporate, where I basically plugged into a system. When I set up my business, the point that traction came into my life, I'm super grateful, because that was the point where I felt like I just didn't belong in this journey, right? I'm going to go back to corporate because I don't know what to do with this. I thought that starting a company with 10, 12 people was going to be chicken. Very easy, given I was leading a 200-person organization before I left to do that, right? I think because of that, I realize now that the best time, or maybe a good indication of when you need a system, is when, as the entrepreneur, you're starting to not love the work that you're doing because it's taking you a different path. Like, as entrepreneurs, we're builders. We're, in EOS, we call them visionaries. Right? We're all about big ideas, big relationships, and like we just attack when there's an opportunity, we go, right? As soon as the team becomes, 10, 12, 15 people, you need a different kind of energy to keep things together. And at least when I started to do that myself, I really didn't love it. Right? Like, there's gotta be another way. I couldn't communicate my methods of doing things, which were very effective for me, but not for my team. So I think at the point where an entrepreneur starts to question, right, what am I doing? I'm not happy. This team doesn't seem to be able to run without me. I can't take a vacation, right? When I introduce EOS to leadership teams, especially to entrepreneurs who are curious about it, I say that we help entrepreneurial teams run a better business so you can all live better lives. Right. So there, in terms
Can
of
I introduce you to my wife? And that's what I really want. I want to introduce you to my wife
okay.
and myself so that we can maybe. I think that's something that we might benefit from a lot.
It's super simple, right? But that said, the individual pain points, the like classic, there's profits, but it's up and down, it's inconsistent. Like people, your employees don't understand you, your customers don't understand you, like everybody outside of your own self understands you. So there's frustrations around people. You're just hitting the ceiling. The stuff that have been working before, you're just getting stuck now and they're not working anymore. So those kind of processes are breaking. You know, when people tell me, we need to run EOS because we don't have a process. And then when I ask them, I realize it's not true. They have a process. The problem is that they don't have a process. The problem is they have too many. The process with many different versions for many different people.
I see.
Yeah.
And then, so that because it's more practical for people starting off with this system and that they don't understand, what are a few key things that you want to share with entrepreneurs right now? First of all, let's say they're running the business and some little things that some nuggets that you can share with them about the EOS that maybe they can start to work with, and eventually when they say, okay, it's about time we're ready, let's try EOS. What are the things that you want to share with some entrepreneurs?
Yeah, the first thing that I want to share is there's a different way I realize of running an entrepreneurial business and a corporate type business that has already all of its process and a lot of the resources. So the first thing is maybe thinking that there is a system. There are systems to run an entrepreneurial business. Number two is that it's going to be a journey, right? So the important thing is to start somewhere. And if there's one tool that I think would really help, it's clarifying accountabilities. So if you have a copy of Traction and your listeners and your viewers in the podcast, if they want a request for a copy of Traction, you just let me know. I'll send you free copies of this book and you can just give it away. But go to the part where it talks about the accountability chart, because at the root of a lot of our issues is clarity on not who reports who, but who is really accountable for what. And if we can create that accountability chart, visualize it. So people, anytime they think, okay, I need this solved, right? You have that accountability chart. And then here's where you can start to clarify it, right? For this year, if I'm accountable for revenues and you're accountable for quality of service delivery, what does that mean in terms of something measurable? What does success look like? Like maybe for me, it's, I don't know, $5 million. For you, it's 1 out of 3 clients referring. Now you can put KPIs. I talked to a lot of people that say, our issue is there's no clear KPIs. It's not very helpful if the accountabilities are not clear, right? So I would say start with the accountability chart. And on our website, eosworldwide.com, you can download all of these tools. They're free.
Got it. I know that you've done some local examples. Is it possible for you to share basically how they've improved, or even other examples from around the world where you've come in and seen how EOS has really improved the company?
Yeah. Without
disclosing the names, no problem.
Disclosing any names, right? Some of the things that I've heard that have really made it, like for me, wow, so meaningful is, wow, I'm actually starting to love my business again, right? I'm getting not free time, but time doing more of the things that I'm doing. I can now go on holidays. I can have peace of mind, right? The teams are growing. They're getting confidence. One of the things I think that EOS does is because it gives us tools, right? Teams now are able to use the tools and do certain things, and it separates what they need to learn from their own identity. Without the tools, when people fail at something, they feel like they're the failure. So for me, classic example is a tool we call IDS, Identify, Discuss, Solve, which is our approach to problem solving, right? In Southeast Asia, everyone I've seen, every employee wants to help solve issues, but they also don't want to make mistakes. And sometimes it costs them their job or their career, right? So without a tool, they're like waiting for the boss. They kind of elevate the issue and then the boss solves it, right? But with IDS, when I've run this in our own companies, our drivers would come together and IDS. To me, like that's equipping people how to solve issues, just to go through that approach of, wait, what's the root cause here, right? Okay, now they have the root cause. What are possible solutions? Let's brainstorm. Okay. We have 3-4 possible solutions. I'm going to pick one and I'm going to try to solve it. If it doesn't work, I'll pick another one, right? So it's very empowering. So I guess those three, I love the business again. I have more freedom now and my team is growing. I can see my team growing. They're more confident.
Excellent. It seems like, who doesn't want to take on EOS here right now? Just in case they want to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch with EOS and with yourself?
Yeah, so thank you for asking that. You can go to our website, so eosworldwide.com. And then there's an implementer directory, and you can look for me, Haraya del Rosario Gust. In our practice, we have other EOS implementers as well that are part of our training practice. So there's Aubrey.
Aubrey
of Bizu.
Bizu.
Yes.
Yes.
She's a wonderful high energy implementer. There's Juan Lee of Le Price. So Juan Lee is really a trainer. Goes around Southeast Asia and now is very focused on EOS implementation as well. There's Tess Villanueva and her focus is on people. And then we have teams we have EOS implementers from Australia, Wallace Lee, and one in Bali, Jenny Clift. And as a team, we're kind of going around Southeast Asia, helping leadership teams run on EOS.
This has been a really excellent session, and there's so much to gain from this one. In case they want to come on board, I mean, the biggest thing that an entrepreneur like myself always think is, what's the cost? What's the budget? Not that you have to give the actual amount, but help us better understand how we can bring EOS if many of us are also budgeting. Because you know how, for instance, as an entrepreneur, you won't have to find a budget for everything. And unless you are able to prioritize it, you won't find the budget for it.
Right. There are many ways to run EOS in the business, right? The cheapest way is to self-implement. So I would say get a copy of Traction. If you'd like, they can reach out to you. Your viewers can reach out to you. And if you let me know, I can send you copies of the books for them. So that's the first one, because all of the tools are already here. The only thing here is someone needs to learn the system, learn the tool so they can teach it, right? The second one is you can subscribe to Basecamp. On Basecamp, I think it's the learning management system of EOS. And if the self-implementer that you assign in your leadership team, you subscribe to that, I think now it's about $500 per month, a little somewhere there. Then that self-implementer can go and learn how to run EOS with the help of other learning aids there. They can implement this for the business, or you can hire an implementer like myself or the other EOS implementers. So many ways to do it.
And usually if you get somebody on your leadership team to implement it, who should it be? Should it be the entrepreneur himself? Because sometimes the entrepreneur won't have time to do the implementation himself. I mean, I can see myself like, I could say yes, but I probably won't be able to, because it's hard to be hard on yourself.
Right. I think it should be someone who is great you're looking more for a teacher, trainer persona, and somebody who can consistently do it, right? So I would say the entrepreneur is not that's not the avatar for the implementer, right?
Sino ba yan? Pwede. You have to hire somebody, HR person. I mean, help me understand. I'm really curious.
I've seen it happen in some teams where actually sometimes the owner does it himself, but there are owners that have that passion for teaching and training and coaching, diba? That's okay. But also I've seen it, they're number two, like the one who actually runs the day-to-day operations. They're usually the ones who are most vested in having a system in place because they're made accountable for how the operations are running. I also know a couple of leadership teams where I've transitioned my role to the people leader, to the leader of HR, because usually the training component is there. But I would say whoever in the leadership team has this passion for teaching, can listen, can hold people accountable, would be a great candidate for a self-implementer.
Fantastic, fantastic. Aya, have you said all this one? Are there any, you've been in the consulting gig, what you're doing right now, you had the corporate life, you've worked with many, many entrepreneurs in all the different groups that you've consulted with. What are the 2 to 3 key, I guess, management hacks or management advice that you'd like to give to entrepreneurs right now on their journey in doing business, in your own experience and who you've spoken to as well, and who you've consulted with?
I think I'll do 3 out of the 5 teachings of the EOS life. The first one is do what you love. The life is too short, right? There are many things that are exciting because of the rewards and the prestige. But if it's not what you love to do, why? Especially if you're an entrepreneur, you can make the choices that a lot of people can't make, right? So do what you love. The second one is do it with people that you love. Right? If you are an entrepreneur building a leadership team, surround your people who are like you, will give you joy, who will make going to that business fun and exciting for you in the leadership team, but also in terms of your customers, right? And I think the fifth one of the 5 points for an EOS life is time for other passions. There's so much of the world to explore, right? So if you're building a business, you and your leadership team, right, make sure that you have some time to explore other things outside of the business that will help you just live a more joyful, meaningful life.
I love that, especially work with people that you love. I love my wife very much, but we can be the best frenemies, I guess, when working in business with each other. I guess EOS can help.
Yes, you just need a system.
EOS can help out with a system with husband, wife, brother, sister, or a family business, or even a company put up by friends, which is very common here in the country.
Yes. Yeah. So it becomes less personal and it's more, these are the tools that we're going to run. Absolutely. We have implementers who specialize in family businesses. Yeah.
I see. I also want to close the discussion, but one thing occurred to me before we end this podcast is that, are there any particular concerns entrepreneurially when it comes to Filipino companies or Filipino Chinese companies, or is something idiosyncratic to the Philippines, or pare-pareho lang yung mga problema ng mga entrepreneurs or concerns ng entrepreneurs worldwide?
Very common worldwide, but in Asia, I think in Asia there's generally we make personal connections with our employees. That's not necessarily true for a lot of the Western cultures. There's a big divide between employee. But in most of the companies that I've worked with in Southeast Asia, you come to the business, you're almost like family. So it's very hard, for example, to do one of the most important decisions that we need to make as a boss, as an employer, is make sure that everyone is successful. Because it's hard for us to let go of people so they can live their lives, go on with their lives if they're not a good fit. In the US, that's not a problem, right? You're fired. It's easy. But here, even if you know they're not succeeding anymore, right? So I think that's common. Doesn't matter. Malaysia, China, it's the same thing.
I see.
So I think just the consciousness that, as entrepreneurial leaders, our goal is to make sure everyone who are journeying with us succeed, even if it means not with us. That's unique to the Filipino.
Got that. And as we close out this discussion, Aya, please share your details so people can get in touch with you online.
Sure, of course. You can go to my LinkedIn page, Haraya del Rosario Gust. You can also email me at haraya.gust@eosworldwide.com. My team is monitoring that mailbox. So if there's any request, you can request for a 90-minute meeting. Our team can give you an overview of EOS, you and your leadership team, and download tools from our website. So yeah, thank you so much for having me here. I really enjoyed.
Well, thank you so much. I learned so much. And now, it's really piqued my interest. Looking forward to seeing ways that I can collaborate together with the EOS team again. Thanks so much for joining us here on the RJ Ledesma Podcast. We will see you guys in the next podcast.
The opinions of podcast creators, hosts, and guests are not necessarily reflective of the official stance of the Pod Network Entertainment, its hosts, or other network programs. The content created by the people behind the podcast is personal and not meant to harm any religion, ethnicity, group, organization, company, or individual.